Chapter 92 of JinPingMei original version. Chen Jingji was imprisoned in Yanzhou Prefecture, and Wu Yunyang made a big fuss in the official office. It is said that Li Yan'e beat up the hosta, and immediately asked Tao's mother to come and take it out. He sold it for 8 taels of silver and bought another maid of 18 years old, who called Mantanger to serve on the stove. But he told Chen Jingji that since Sister Ximen came home, she had returned a lot of bedclothes and dowry items. The guys in the box and cage started shouting every 3 days and made trouble every 5 days, asking his mother, Mrs. Zhang, for money to do business. His uncle Zhang Tuanlian came to ask his mother to borrow 50 taels of silver to resume his management. He got drunk and yelled at Uncle Zhang's door. His uncle Zhang was so angry that he borrowed money from another place, worked as a steward, and returned the money. His mother, Mrs. Zhang, suffered from a severe illness and was bedridden day after day. She took medicine and sought medical treatment all day long. He couldn't beat him, so he had to exchange 300 taels of silver with him and asked Chending to open 2 rooms at the front door of his house to open a cloth shop and do business. Jingji made friends with Lu Sanlang and Ong Daling day by day, playing pipa, playing dominoes, playing shuanglu in the shop, and drinking half the night to see if he could get rid of his capital. Chending told Mr. Zhang how much he spent on drinking every day. Mrs. Zhang listened to Chending's words and refused to trust him. Jingji replied that Chending was dyeing cloth and took away the money, and kicked Chending and his wife out to live outside, but he took Young Daling as his clerk. This Young Daling's name is Yang Guangyan and his nickname is Iron Nail. He is dedicated to telling lies and making false claims. When he makes promises to others, he is like catching a shadow in the wind, defrauding people of their money, and like picking things out of a bag. Jingji asked his mother to give him another 200 taels of silver to add to his supply. She collected a total of 500 taels of silver and trusted him to go to Linqing to sell cloth. Young Daling went home to pack his luggage and followed Jingji from home to go to Linqing to look for the missing goods in Matu. Arriving at Linqing, Linqing Gate is a lively and prosperous place called Matu, where merchants come and go, and vehicles gather. There are 32 flower alleys and 72 orchestra buildings. Jingji was a young man after all, and Young Daling led him around prostitutes and hotels, but he didn't sell much. When I was walking in a brothel, I met a fan named Feng Jinbao. He was a romantic and pretty man, and he was good at both sex and art. When asked how young she was, the madam said, "My sister is my biological daughter, and he is the only one who earns money to support me. This year, I'm only 2,918 years old." When Jingji saw him, he was completely shocked. He gave the bastard 5 taels of silver for his house and stayed with him for several nights. When Young Daling saw that he loved this fan, he lingered on her and made flirtatious remarks, saying that he wanted to marry him. The bastard asked for 120 taels of silver. When the price reached 100 taels, he exchanged the silver and married her into the family. They were carried in sedan chairs along the way. Both Young Daling and Jingji rode horses to escort the goods cart, whipping their horses and whipping all the way. They were so happy. Exactly, passionate Swallow Tower. Ma Dao Kong looks back. He was sent to Wellington to accompany him as a friend of Luan Huang. When Mrs. Zhang saw that Jingji's goods were not enough, she spent all her money to marry a singer. She breathed heavily and died sadly. This Jingji inevitably bought a coffin to bury, chanted sutras for 7 days, left it for 7 days, sent it out, and buried it together with the tombs of the ancestors. His mother-in-law, Zhang Tuanlian, looked at his mother, but she didn't have the same level of experience as him. When Jingji returned from overturning the tomb, his mother had 3 main rooms, with the spiritual place in the middle being kept. Feng Jinbao lived in the other 2 rooms, and the eldest sister lived in the side room. He also bought a girl named Changzir to serve Feng Jinbao. Young Daling opened a shop in front of the door, and the family bought and sang a lot of wine and meat. I only sleep with the singer every day, leaving my eldest sister alone. One day, I learned that Meng Yulu was married to Li Yan'e, the son of Lizi County, and brought many things with him. After 3 years of office, Li Jixian was promoted to the general magistrate in Yanzhou Prefecture, Zhejiang Province. He got up and took the waterway to go to his post. Chen Jingji remembered that he had picked up Meng Yulu's hairpin in the garden, so he wanted to use the hairpin as a certificate and go to Yanzhou. It's just that Yulu had an affair with him first, and she had a hairpin with him. But she didn't get along with him and brought many things with her. When she married Li Yan'e, they were all the gold and silver boxes and cages that Yang Jian kept in the past, and they should not be official. Then Li Tong was sentenced to one civil servant. How much soup? After hearing these powerful words, I'm not afraid not to ask his son to give his wife to me with both hands. At that time, I married the future family and became a couple with Feng Jinbao, and it turned out to be very useful. Exactly, the plan is to catch the moon rabbit in the middle of the month, and the golden crow in the day. It's better if Jingji doesn't come, but when he comes, it's exactly like this. People who have lost their sight meet the 5 realms, and hungry ghosts hit Zhongqi in the cold sky. There is a poem to prove it. I rushed to Yanzhou to visit the beautiful woman, and my heart felt like a stone sinking. Once whose man was as deep as the sea, Xiaolang fell into a trap. One day, Chen Jingji checked his mother's box and found 1,000 taels of gold and silver. He left 100 taels to go to Feng Jinbao's house. He called Chen Dingfu in to look after the house and sell scraps of cloth in the shop in front of the door. He and Yang Daling took their family member Chen in with them and took 900 taels of silver. They got up from the Mid-Autumn Festival in August and went to Huzhou to sell half a boat of silk and silk. Shop owner Chenner is inside. Chenner killed the chicken to get wine and drank with Yang Daling. In the middle of drinking, he said to Yang Daling, "Brother, you will keep an eye on the cargo on this ship for the time being and stay in Erlang's shop for a few days. Chen and I will take some personnel gifts and go to Yanzhou Mansion in Zhejiang Province to see if my sister is married in the mansion. How about that? It will take 5 days, and the boy will come in 3 days." Yang Daling said, "Brother, I'm just going to go, brother. I would rather wait in the store. When brother arrives, let's get up together." Chen Jingji, Qianbu, Wanbu, and Shannon took some money and personnel gifts with them and took the route to Yanzhou Mansion one day. He entered the city and settled in the temple. I found out that 1 month after Li Tong was appointed, his small boat only arrived 3 days ago. Chen Jingji didn't dare to neglect, so he bought for plates of gifts and for pieces of silk ruler, which Chenin kept. He then chose to wear neat clothes and hats, with bright eyebrows, and walked to the front of the government office, bowed to the doorman and said, "I'm sorry to report that I am the relative of the newly married wife of Tong Chuan's father's office, and Uncle Meng is here to visit." After hearing this, the official did not dare to neglect, and immediately reported it in. The yeoman was reading in the study, and when he heard that it was the woman's brother, he ordered his left and right men to bring the gifts in first, and while he was busy adjusting his clothes, he said, "Please," inviting Chen Jingji into the government office to recite the ceremony. The guests and hosts sat down and said, "When we got married the day before yesterday, why didn't I know my second uncle?" Jingji said, "I'm selling goods in Sichuan and Guangzhou, so I won't come back until a year later. I don't know if my sister is getting married to someone in the family, so I am not close to you. I am going to give you a small gift today and come to see my sister." Li Yamane said, "I never knew. I'm rude. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." After a while, the tea was over, and the yeoman ordered, "Take the gift stickers and gifts in, and tell your mother that the second uncle is here." Meng Yulu was sitting in the room when he heard the doorman come in and announce, "Second Uncle Meng is here." Yulu said, "There's that uncle again. Could it be that my second brother Meng Rui came home and came to see me from all over the world?" I saw Bandang bring in gifts and stickers, which read, "Dependent Meng Rui." He knew it was his brother and said, "Please, let Langsheng clean up the back hall. The Jade building is decorated, waiting to be seen." I saw Rangzi coming from the yeoman, and Yulu was watching from behind the curtain. But suddenly something happened. It was not his brother, but brother-in-law Chen. What is he doing here? When I go out, what should I say to him? As the saying goes, whether we are close or not, The difference between the hometown people beautiful or not. The water in the countryside. Although he is not my brother, he is still my son-in-law. Put on makeup and come out to see me. Na Jingji said, I never knew my sister was getting married here. I never saw it. He just said this because he didn't expect the disciples to come to invite guests to the Yamen, but there were guests coming from outside. The Yamen assigned Yulu to entertain his second uncle, and then went out to entertain the guests. When Yulu saw Jingji kowtow, he quickly returned the courtesy and said, Brother-in-law, you are excused from the ceremony. Did the wind blow you here? After reciting the etiquette, he sat down and asked Langsheng to watch the tea come out. After having tea, we chatted with each other about common things. Yuluin asked, How are you, eldest sister? Jingji told Yulu about how he came out of Ximenxing's house and asked for a cage. Yulu also told him about visiting the tomb during the Qingming festival, meeting Chunmai at Yangfu Temple, and burning paper on the Jinlian tomb. He added, When I was at home, I often advised your aunt to love her son-in-law as much as she loves her daughter. My brother-in-law never supported outsiders. He listened to the villain and sent his brother-in-law away. I didn't know if my brother-in-law fell behind and begged for a box. Jingji said, To tell you the truth, I'm friends with Six's sister. Who doesn't know about it? He listened to the slave's words and sent him out before he was killed by Wu Song. If he were at home, Wu Song would have 7 heads and 8. How dare you come to your house to kill him? My hatred is as deep as the sea. Even if the sixth sister died in the underworld, she would not spare him, Yulu said, be it brother-in-law or not. Let's just let go. Since ancient times, enmities can only be resolved, not settled. While they were talking, the maid put down the table, placed the wine, and filled the table with cups and plates of food. Yulu poured a glass of wine, handed it to Jingji with both hands, and said, Brother-in-law is traveling a long way and has nothing to spend. Please give me a glass of wine. Jingji took it with his hand, saying, poured a glass of wine back to the woman, and sat down with a bow. Seeing that the woman called him brother-in-law is the elder brother, brother-in-law is the younger brother, he said nothing, and secretly thought in his heart, this is a licentious woman. How come I don't admit my guilt and only call me brother-in-law? Wait for me to explore him slowly. After 3 rounds of wine, 5 courses of food, and no one around, he threw in a few evil words and said, My brother misses his sister as much as he is thirsty for milk, and as hot as cold. How could he remember when he was at his father-in-law's house? They were playing chess and playing cards in one place, sitting together like a back cover. Who expected us to be separated today? You to the east and me to the west. Yulu smiled and said, Brother-in-law is easy to talk about. Since ancient times the clear ones are clear and the muddy ones are muddy. Over time, you will see. The Jingji smiled and took out a pack of fragrant tea for 2 persons from his sleeve, handed it to the woman, and said, Sister, if you are affectionate and have pity on your brother, eat this fragrant tea from me. As he said that, he quickly knelt down. The woman immediately blushed from her ears, turned red in the face, grabbed the tea bag on the ground with one hand, and said, You don't know how to respect others. I was kind enough to give you wine to eat, but now you are teasing me. He left the banquet and went to the room. Seeing that he ignored him, Jingji picked up the fragrant tea and said, I came to see you with good intentions, but you have changed your mind. How dare you say that you married Tongpan's son, a good man, and you don't want me anymore. When you were the 3rd little wife in Simon King's family, you were never the same as me. He took out the old gold-headed silver hairpin from his sleeve, held it in his hand and said, Whose is this? You are having an affair with me. Why did this hairpin fall into my hands? The name of Yulu is still engraved on it. You and the eldest wife colluded and sent 8 boxes of gold, silver, soft, jade and precious stones to my house, all of which were sent to Yangji, and all the things that should be left without official status are brought to married men. I will teach you not to panic, and I will answer you on the 8 character 8 Jinjir. When Yulu saw him speaking, the hairpin he held was the gold-headed lotus petal hairpin he wore on his head. I disappeared in the garden in the past. How did it fall into the hands of this short-lived person? I'm afraid the servants who yelled knew it, and it changed in a moment. With a smile on his face, he came out, took Jingji's hand, and said, "It's so easy to stop me. If you play tricks in a fight, you'll get annoyed no matter what," because he saw no one around him. He whispered, "You have a heart, and I also have a will." The two couldn't help but kiss each other while hugging each other. Chen Jingji stretched his tongue like a snake spitting out a message, then let it slip into his mouth and smacked it, saying, "Only when you call me your husband do you have my heart." The woman said, "Hush your voice, lest someone hears you." Jingji quietly said to him, "Now I have packed half of the cargo and I am waiting at Xinjiangpu. If you are willing to pay attention, you can do this and pretend to be a disciple in the evening. Go out privately, follow me to the boatman's house, and make it a success." Couple. Why not? As a civil servant, he is afraid of right and wrong. Why wouldn't he dare to come and look for you? The woman said, "In that case, that's fine. Next date. You wait behind the wall of the house tonight. I have a bag of gold and silver. I will tie it to the wall and pick it up with you. Then I will pretend to be a doorman and come out through the door to follow you on the boat." The judge heard that it was the beauty who was interested, even if the white wall was high and the pink wall was ruthless. We would still be sitting together thousands of mountains apart. At that time, if Meng Yulu could marry a stupid person, it would be better for him to marry Jingji, and Jingji would be the one to marry him. Now that he is marrying Li Yan'e, he has a bright future, is a charming person, is young, and is full of kindness, and he seduces you again. What to do? Don't say that you don't even have hands on weekdays. This husband was also unlucky, so he told the truth and secrets to him, and took advantage of his mother-in-law to make money. Exactly, there are still thorns hidden under the branches and leaves of flowers, and it is difficult to protect people's hearts from being poisonous. The two of them stopped talking, and Jingji had a few glasses of wine, then said goodbye and went back. Li Yan'e hurriedly sent him out of the house, followed by Chenin. The yeoman then asked the woman, "Where does your brother live? I will go back to pay homage to him tomorrow and send him some information." The woman said, "That's my brother over there. He is the son-in-law of Ximen King's family. He came to hook up with me and abduct me. I have made an appointment with him to meet at the back wall at 3 o'clock tonight. How about we use the trick and get him? How about taking down the thief and getting rid of the subsequent troubles?" The yeoman said, "This guy has no provocation. He has never been poisonous or a husband since ancient times. If I didn't go to find him, he would die on his own." As he walked out, he called his left and right companions, his confidants and quick hands. So prepared, Chen Jingji didn't know what had happened. At midnight, he led his family, Chenin, to the back wall of the government office. He coughed as a signal, hearing only the sound of the jade tower inside the wall. He hid a rope on the wall and tied a large bag there. Silver. It turned out that it was the 200 taels of stolen silver that Kunai took as fine. Jingji was just waiting to be taught by Chenin, who was taking it away. Suddenly he heard a bang and 4 or 5 men flashed out of the black shadow, shouting, "There is a thief!" Jingji and Chenin were immediately tied up, and they were notified. Li Tong was sentenced to pay. "We will all be escorted to the prison for questioning tomorrow." It turns out that the surname of the Zhengtang magistrate of Yanzhou Prefecture is Su, and his given name is Zhu Shanfeng. He is from Lintao Prefecture, Shaanxi Province. He was a Gangsu Jinshi and was an extremely honest and upright person. The next morning, when the hall was raised, there were 2 rows of officials on the left and right. Li Tong, the judge, went up and drew the throne. The treasurer reported the case of the thief and brought Chen Jingji up. He said, "Last night at the first watch, there were 2 unknown thieves who are now known. Chen Jingji and Chenin opened the key to the treasury door with a shovel, stole 200 taels of stolen silver, jumped over the wall, and were captured. They came to see the master. Magistrate Su ordered, 'Bring them here.' He grabbed Chen Jingji and Chenin and drove them to the hall where they knelt down. When the prefect saw that Jingji was young and handsome, he asked, 'Where is this guy from? Why did he come to my government office to work as a thief at night and steal stolen money from the government treasury? What's the point?' Then Chen Jingji only kowtowed and complained about injustice. Magistrate Zhu asked, "How can you plead guilty for being a thief?" Li Tongpuan stood aside and said, "Old sir, you don't have to ask him. The stolen goods have been proven with your own eyes. Why don't you punish him?" Magistrate Zhu immediately ordered, "Take it down and hit 20 boards." Li Tongping said, "People are bitter insects and cannot be defeated unless they are beaten. Otherwise, this thief will be reincarnated." At this moment, the officials on both sides dragged Jingji and Chen in a way and beat them down. Chen Jingji only cursed. "Who knew the adulteress Meng Sanner had trapped me here? What injustice! What a misfortune!" After all, Su Zhifu was an official from Huangtang. Hearing this, there must be a reason, so he was beaten to the 10th board. Ordered, "Stay here, take him to prison, and ask again tomorrow." Judge Li Tong said, "Old gentleman, you shouldn't let him go. As the saying goes, people's hearts are like iron, and official laws are like furnaces. If you let him go without any trouble overnight, he will turn around." Spoken words, Magistrate Zhu said, "It doesn't matter, I have my own idea." At that moment, the jailer escorted Jingji and Chen into prison. Magistrate Zhu had some doubts in his heart, so he called his confidants to come closer. In this way, he went to prison to inquire about the origins of Jingji's crimes and even reported them in return. The officer pretended to be a prisoner and slept on the same wooden box with Jingji at night. He asked him why he was young and he was not a thief. Jingji then said, "It's hard to explain. I am the son-in-law of Ximen King in King County. The newly married woman of Li Tongpuan's son, Meng, is my father-in-law's daughter and she has an affair with me in the past. Now I have brought my master Yang Jian with me. I sent 10 boxes of gold, silver, treasures and toys to his house. I came here to ask him for money, but he bullied me in this way and treated me like a thief. It was so hard to get beaten up and never see the light of day again." After hearing this, the man came out of the hall and reported to Magistrate Zhu. The magistrate said, "How? I said there must be a reason why this person was called Meng unjustly." When he went to the hall the next day, officials stood on both sides. Magistrate Zhu brought Chen Jingji and Chen in up, excerpted their oral statements, took Zhang Wuxi's confession, and ordered their release. Li Tongpuan didn't know what was going on and kept saying, "Old sir, since this is a sworn enemy, you can't let him go." On the contrary, Magistrate Zhu gave Li Tong a good beating and said, "I am the official of this government and work with the court. I should not take personal revenge against your officials and frame ordinary people as thieves. Your son married Meng, the concubine of his father-in-law Ximen King, brought a lot of things, including gold and silver boxes and boxes that should be stolen by officials. He is the son-in-law of Ximen King, and he came to ask for his property. How can you pretend to be a thief and accuse him? I contribute to your family. As an official, you have to raise children and raise them. If this is the case, how can it be fair?" Li Tong's face was filled with shame when he told the court, and he was dejected and did not dare to speak. Chen Jingji and Chen were released. After a long time, Magistrate Zhu withdrew. When Li Tongpan returned to his home, he was very anxious. Then he yelled to his wife, "You are such an unworthy son." Today, Magistrate Zhu tried his best to scold me in front of all his fellow officials. "But you don't want to kill me out of anger." The wife panicked and said, "What's the matter?" Li Tongpuan immediately called his son to him and ordered the people around him. "Bring me a big board and kill me with anger," he said. "You are a good thief." He is Ximen King's son-in-law, because this woman brought a lot of dowry. When a box of gold and silver came, he kept claiming that it was Yang Jian, the traitor of the dynasty, who had deposited the things. That should be deprived of his official position, and he came to ask you for it. He said that you pretended to steal the official silver from the treasury and took him as a thief. I didn't know a word about it, but I was Magistrate Zhu said this to everyone in the main hall. "This is the first day I have not been in office and you have taken care of me. What use do I have for an unworthy person like you?" He even hit him with big wooden boards like raindrops from the left and right. The beating was so pitiful that Li Yaman's skin was torn and his blood was flowing out. Seeing that the beating was not good enough, The lady cried and tried to persuade him. Meng Yulu stood at the door in the corner of the back hall, hiding his tears and listening. After 30 rounds were played, Li Tong was ordered to pay for his duties, take the Yamen under guard, and immediately send the woman out with me, ordering him to remarry as he pleases, so as not to cause trouble, and to protect my reputation. How could Li Yamen be willing to divorce in his heart? He just cried and begged in front of his parents. I would rather beat my son to death than let this woman go in front of my father. Li Tongpuan locked the Yamen in the back hall with an iron rope pier and refused to let him out. He would only imprison him to death. The lady cried, "Miss Sir, you have been an official for only one time. You are more than 50 years old, and you only end up with this little flesh and blood. If you don't fight for this woman, you will imprison him. When you retire when you are old, who will you rely on?" Li Tongpan said, "Otherwise, if he is here, he will make me popular." The lady said, "You don't want him here. Just send him and his wife back to their hometown of Zhending Mansion." The judge followed his wife's advice and released him from the office. After 3 days, he got up, packed his vehicle, and returned to Zhaoqiang County with his wife to study books. But Chen Jingji and Chenin left Yanzhou Mansion, went to the temple to pick up their luggage, and went straight to Chenner's store in Xinjiangpu to look for young Daling. Chenner said, 3 days ago, he said that he couldn't come if you had a letter. He packed up the cargo ship, got up and went home. Jingji didn't believe it, so he went down the river to look for the ship, but failed. He said, "God damn it. Why did you get up and leave before I came?" Guangshen came out of prison with no more money around him. He and Chenin couldn't help but hitch a ride on the boat, take off their clothes, beg for food and return home. He was as busy as a brief dog and as anxious as a fish that slipped through the net, looking for young Daling, but there was no trace. It was the late autumn weather at that time. The trees were withered, the golden wind was shaking down, and it was very desolate. There are 8 lines in the poem. This autumn is the most miserable time for travelers on a single road. The lotus leaves are withered, and the leaves of the sycamore trees are falling. The crickets are chirping in the rotting grass, and the geese are falling on the flat sandy ground. The drizzle wets the green forest, and the weather is heavy with frost. How can I know the taste of autumn without seeing any passers-by? One day Jingji will come home. Chending was at the door and was startled when he saw Jingji coming home, dressed in ragged clothes and with a swarthy face. When I got home, I asked where the cargo ship was. Jingji was so angry that he didn't say anything for a long time, and told the story about the lawsuit in Yanzhou Mansion. Thanks to Magistrate Zhu for letting me go. Otherwise my life would have been difficult to save. I was killed by young Daling today, and he abducted my goods without knowing where they were. First, Chending was sent to his home to inquire about it, but his family said he had not come home yet. Jingji went to ask in person again, but found no whereabouts. He was panicked and walked into the room. Then Fang Jinbao and Sister Ximen faced each other from south to north. Ever since Jingji left home, the two have been in harmony until now. The eldest sister then said, Fang Jinbao took the money and transferred it to his bastard. His babysitter came all day long, hiding his secrets, buying wine, buying meat, and eating in the house. There was nothing he wanted at home, so he slept until at noon. I don't want to buy anything. I just want to stay with you. Fang Jinbao added, my eldest sister spends all her time working on the grass and not moving the grass. She steals rice to exchange for sesame cakes to eat. She also steals the cooked bacon in the room and eats it with the girl Yuang Xiar. Chen Jingji believed it and scolded the eldest sister. A thief is not a talented whore. You are a greedy and slanderous person. You steal rice and exchange it for sesame cakes to eat, and you gang up with a girl to steal meat. He beat Yuang Xiar and kicked the eldest sister several times. The eldest sister was so anxious that she bumped Feng Jinbao's head and cursed. You whore who loves to feed men. The things you stole are no longer worth the money to the bastard. When it comes to imitating men and saying that I steal rice and meat, it's a waste of time. Instead, you caught the patrolman and taught the man to kick me. I exchanged it with you, a whore. What do you want with this life? Jingji said. What, a whore? You exchanged it for him. You are not worth him. Just a few toes. It seemed that something was wrong, so he plucked the eldest sister's hair and beat her with fists, kicks, and a crutch until her nose and mouth started to bleed, and she woke up after half a day. Jingji went back to singing room and fell asleep. The eldest sister was left sobbing in the room below, just crying. Yuan Shuier fell asleep outside. The poor eldest sister hung herself from a beam with a rope in the middle of the night. She died at the age of 24. In the early morning of the next day, when I got up during the Lantern Festival, I couldn't open my inner room. Jingji and Feng Jinbo were still in bed, so his maid, Chang Zir, came to call her eldest sister to get a wooden basin to wash her feet, but she couldn't push it away. Jingji also scolded, "How can you still sleep, you thief? We can't get up at night." I just opened the door and went in, and plucked all the hair off the horse temples. Chang Shire opened the window, looked in, and said, "He's up and playing on the swing in the room." He also said, "He is playing tricks with puppets." I saw Yuan Shao looking at it for a long time and shouting, "Dad, it's not good." My mother hung herself from the top of the bed. Only then did the young man panic, and he sang in unison, stamped open the door, and moved forward to untie himself. He saved him for half a day, and he got the right tone. I don't know how long it took, but sadly I died. It's just that I don't know where the true nature is, and my doubts are in the flowing clouds and autumn water. When Chen Ding heard that his eldest sister was dead, he was afraid of being implicated, so he went to inform Yunyang first. Yunyang heard that her eldest sister had hanged herself. Jingji was married and singing at home. The ice was 3 feet thick and it was not cold in a day. She led her family, servants, maids, and wives to his house. When he saw the eldest sister's body hanging upright, he started to cry. He grabbed Jingji and beat him randomly until he was blinded all over. The singer, Feng Jinbao, hid under the bed, picked it out, and beat him to death. The doors, windows, and walls were all smashed to pieces, and even the beds, curtains, and makeup were moved out of the room. When I return home, I invite my Uncle Wu and my second uncle to come and discuss it. The uncle said, "Sister, if our family members die and you can't get an official position at this time, tomorrow he won't be able to live, and he still comes to ask for a box and cage. If you don't have long-term worries, you will have short-term worries. It's better to go to the official office and cut off the relationship to prevent future troubles." Yunyang said, "Brother, I can see that." A petition was written on one side. The next day, Yunyang resigned from office in person and came to the county's official appointment hall to hand in the certificate. It turns out that the new county magistrate's surname is Huo, and his given name is Dolly. He is from Huanggang County, Huguang. He was born in Juran and is an upright person. When he heard that it was a life-threatening matter, he was immediately promoted to the court to receive the order. The notice reads, "The complainant, Mrs. Wu, is 34 years old and is the wife of the late Qianhu Simon King. She was accused of being an evil son-in-law who bullied an orphan widow, listened to a prostitute, beat her to death, and begged for mercy and treatment to survive. For example, there was a son-in-law, Chen Jingji, who came to his family because of official affairs and stayed there for several years. He usually eats alcohol and commits crimes. If he doesn't keep his duty, he will be beaten and hanged. He was afraid of the law and was driven out of the house. Unexpectedly, Jingji held a grudge. Simon, the general's daughter at home, was often beaten and never tolerated. Unexpectedly, Yi married Feng Jinbao, a prostitute from Linqing, and came to live in his house. He took his daughter's wife's wife and lived in her. He listened to his instigation and humiliated her and beat her in every possible way. She also had her hair picked out and was kicked all over her body. At 3 o'clock on August 23rd of that year, the girl was hanged to death. It is unreasonable to express his sincerity to Jingji, to act cruel and stubborn, to bully the orphans and widows, and to threaten to kill with a knife. I beg for permission to be detained and brought to the case, and the root cause of the girl's death will be investigated strictly, and the law will be followed. The evil and stubborn people know the police, so that good people can live in peace. and the dead should not bear injustice. For this reason, a petition was filed to Master Kingshun of this county for execution. The magistrate of Huo County looked at the prince in the public seat and saw that Wu Yunyang was dressed in plain clothes with a filial skirt tied around her waist. She was the wife of a fifth-rank official. She had a dignified appearance and elegant appearance. He stood up and said, "Well, Mr. Wu, get up. As far as I can see, you are also a wife of an official. I understand the logic of this situation. Please go back and just ask your family to serve you here from now on. I will play my cards. Go get him." Wu Yunyang quickly thanked the magistrate, came out and went home in a sedan chair, and entrusted her to wait at Zhao Hall. After a while, the petition was approved, and two public servants were appointed, with a white card on each side, to detain Jingji, the prostitute Feng Jinbao, and 2 neighbors to protect him, and go to the official for hearing. Jingji was in the midst of a funeral at home. When he heard Yunyang complaining, the county official issued cards to take him away. Feng Jinbao had been beaten so much that his whole body ached and he was sleeping on the bed. When he heard people taking him, he was so scared that he didn't know whether he was alive or not. Chen Jingji didn't bother with money. He sent the officials to dinner and wine, and even the singer was tied up with a rope to the county. It is adjacent to Fan Gang on the left, Sun Ji on the right, and Wang Quan of Baojia. When Huozi County heard that someone had been brought, he was immediately promoted to the hall. Lai Zhao knelt at the top, while Chen Jingji, Feng Jinbao and others knelt at the bottom. After the county magistrate read the complaint, he called Jingji up and said, "You are abominable. Why did you listen to a prostitute and beat Simon to death before ordering her to be hanged?" "What's the point?" Jingji kowtowed and said, "I hope Master Kingshun will investigate." "Love, how dare you beat him to death?" Because the guy was out there and was cheated of his money, so he came home angrily and asked him for food. He didn't cook, so he was kicked twice by his younger brother. He hanged himself in the middle of the night and died. The magistrate shouted, "Since you married a prostitute, why do you ask her for food? It doesn't make sense. Wu's petition said that you beat his daughter to death and just hang yourself, but you still haven't confessed." Jingji said, "The Wu family has a grudge against Xiao Xiao, so he framed Xiao Xiao. I hope the master will find out." The county magistrate was furious and said, "His daughter is dead. How can she still rely on him?" He ordered the left and right to take it down and hit 20 big boards. Feng Jinbao came up, beat it once, and knocked 100 times. He ordered the public servant to take him to prison. The next day, Sang Buji, the entrusted Dian Shi, led the officials, Baojia, and neighbors. They went to Jingji's house, took out the body, and examined it on the spot. There were bruises all over the body, and there were rope marks on the neck. Before his death, Wei was seriously injured by Jingji's kicks, and he couldn't bear it anymore, so he hanged himself to death. He took the offering instrument and tied it. Report back to the county. The county magistrate was furious and beat Jingji 10 times more. Jinbao took off his clothes and also received 10 times. When asked about the crime of Chen Jingji's husband beating his wife until she was hanged, Feng Jinbao handed him 100 and sent him back to the department as an errand. This Chen Jingji panicked. The jailer wrote a note and told Chen Ding that he had collected the money from the cloth shop, and even the eldest sister, together with his elder sister, collected a total of 100 taels of silver and secretly sent it to the magistrate. The magistrate changed the form overnight and stopped asking. Forced to die, he was a miscellaneous criminal. He was allowed to serve for 5 years and carry ashes to atone for his crime. Wu Yunyang knelt down and begged again and again. The magistrate called Yunyang up and said, "Madam, your daughter has rope marks on her neck. How can I ask him to beat him to death? Rules, could it be that favors are too biased? You are afraid that he will pester you later, so I will get him the paperwork to stop him from coming to your door again." He brought Chen Jingji up to him and said, "I will spare your life today. You must change your ways. Shen, don't go to Wu's house to harass me again. If you commit another crime against me again, I won't let you go." Even if Simon is buried in a coffin and sent for burial, I can send the application documents to the boss here. Jingji was spared, paid the atonement money, returned home, carried the body into the coffin, put it there for a week, chanted sutras and buried it, buried outside the city. After spending half a month in prison, he spent a lot of money. Fang Jinbao, the singer, also went. Everything in the house was clean, and the house was mortgaged. He had just been scraped and died, and he would never die again. I dared to speak out about my mother-in-law. It's just that misfortunes and blessings come to oneself without any means. It should be noted that when there is extreme happiness, there will be sorrow. There is a poem to prove it. When the storm breaks out, a shaky wall rises from the ground, but the great kindness and kindness are unforgettable. The water overflowing the blue bridge should meet, and Samsung has the right to participate in the business.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.